Hey there, and welcome back to the Lessons of A Course in Miracles. My name is Sherry, and today we are going to be doing lesson number 138. Heaven is the decision I must make. In this world, heaven is a choice, because here we believe there are alternatives to choose between. We think that all things have an opposite, and what we want to choose. If heaven exists, there must be hell as well, for contradiction is the way we make what we perceive and what we think is real. Creation knows no opposite, but here is opposition part of being real. It is this strange perception of the truth that makes the choice of heaven seem to be the same as the relinquishment of hell. It is not really thus. Yet what is true in God's creation cannot enter here until it is reflected in some form the world can understand. Truth cannot come where it could only be perceived with fear, for this would be the error truth can be brought to illusions. Opposition makes the truth unwelcome, and it cannot come. Choice is the obvious escape from what appears as opposites. Decision lets one of conflicting goals become the aim of effort and expenditure of time. It is spent for nothing in return, and time goes by without results. There is no sense of gain, for nothing is accomplished, nothing learned. You need to be reminded that you think 1,000 choices are confronting you when there is really only one to make, and even this but seems to be a choice. Do not confuse yourself with all the doubts the myriad decisions would induce. You make but one, and when that one is made, you will perceive it was no choice at all. For truth is true, and nothing else is true. There is no opposite to choose instead. There is no contradiction to the truth. Choosing depends on learning, and the truth cannot be learned, but only recognized. In recognition, its acceptance lies, and it is accepted, it is known. And as it is accepted, it is known. But knowledge is beyond the goal we seek to teach within the framework of this course. Ours are teaching goals, to be attained through learning how to reach them, what they are, and what they offer you. Decisions are the outcome of your learning, for they rest on what you have accepted as the truth of what you are and what your needs must be. In this insanely complicated world, heaven appears to take the form of choice rather than merely being what it is. Of all the choices you have tried to make, this is the simplest, most definitive and prototype of all the rest. This one remains unsolved. Of all the choices you have tried to make, this is the simplest, most definitive and prototype of all the rest, the one which settles all decisions. If you could decide the rest, this one remains unsolved. But when you solve this one, the others are resolved with it, for all decisions but conceal this one by taking different forms. Here is the final and only choice in which truth is accepted or denied. So we begin today considering the choice that time was made to help us make. Such is its holy purpose, now transformed from the intent you gave it, that it be a means for demonstrating hell is real, hope changes to despair, and life itself must in the end be overcome by death. In death alone are opposites resolved, for ending opposition is to die. To resolve the conflict is to end your life as well. These mad beliefs can gain unconscious hold of great intensity and grip the mind with terror and anxiety so strong that it will not relinquish its ideas about its own protection. It must be saved from salvation, threatened to be safe, and magically armored against truth. And these decisions are made unaware to keep them safely undisturbed, apart from question and from reason and from doubt. Heaven is chosen consciously. The choice cannot be made until alternatives are accurately seen and understood. All that is veiled in shadows must be raised to understanding, to be judged again, this time with heaven's help, and all mistakes in judgment that the mind had made before are open to correction, as the truth dismisses this as causeless. Now are they without effects. They cannot be concealed because their nothingness is recognized. The conscious choice of heaven is as sure as is the ending of the fear of hell, and is brought to light. The conscious choice of heaven is as sure as is the ending of the fear of hell, when it is raised from its protective shield of unawareness and brought to light. Who can decide between the clearly seen and the unrecognized? Yet who can fail to make a choice between alternatives when only one is seen as valuable, the other as a wholly worthless thing, a but imagined source of guilt and pain? Who hesitates to make a choice like this? And shall we hesitate to choose today? We make the choice for heaven as we wake and spend 5 minutes making sure that we have made the one decision that is sane. We recognize we make a conscious choice between what has existence and what has nothing but an appearance of the truth. Its pseudo-being, brought to what is real, is flimsy and transparent in the light. It holds no terror now for what was made enormous, vengeful, pitiless with hate, demands obscurity for fear to be invested there. Now it is recognized as but a foolish, trivial mistake. Before we close our eyes and sleep tonight, we reaffirm the choice that we have made each hour in between. And now we give the last 5 minutes of our waking day to the decision with which we woke. As every hour passed, we have declared our choice again in a brief, quiet time devoted to maintaining sanity. And finally, we close the day with this, acknowledging we chose but what we want. Heaven is the decision I must make. I make it now and will not change my mind because it is the only thing I want. All right, so it sounds like 5 minutes twice a day and every hour. Heaven is the decision I must make. Very well, Jesus. So let's see what he has to say in A Year of Forgiveness, the 2019 version of these lessons. Lesson number 138, heaven is the decision I must make. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one you know as Jesus. Heaven can be here on earth in that sense. The suffering, deep pain, guilt, and shame you feel on this plane in these lower 3D realms is completely unnecessary. Even though you are in separation, when you have the happy dream, you have not yet transferred yourself over to true reality, which is your reunion with all that is. You have a much better time of it when you train to perceive clearly and see rightly. When you see with the right side of your consciousness, the loving side of your consciousness, the suffering, pain, guilt, shame, and sickness begin to fade away. When you decide with the ego's thought system, you are in pain. When in pain, it is hard to imagine that you could be in a sort of heaven here on earth, on this earth plane, but you can once you raise your frequency through the practice of forgiveness as described in the text. Once you have decided to choose love as often as you can during the day by respecting and giving yourself and others, remember, you have been taught to put others before you, it is important for you to invest in your own mental clarification in these early days. This often goes against your internal rules. We seem to be contradicting ourselves here, but we are not. What you give to another, you give to yourself. If you do not have a clarified mind and do not understand this principle, then it is impossible for you to give because you do not believe it. You do not trust in that process. This year that you spend with us is the process of clarification. Most of you need to realize that everything you've been taught is upside down and that to give is to receive. This is a training program, and not all these lessons make sense to you. Not all these lessons feel right to you. because they are not yet the predominant frequency of your thought system. You are still deeply immersed in the ego's thought system at this stage of the game. As you learn to choose differently, you will feel different. You will see your choices, your internal thoughts, and your value system change. Therefore, you suffer less. Sounds good. This is the most wonderful point, because you realize that if in 138 days you have accomplished a significant change that you actually feel and is measurable, what will happen in a year? What will happen in 3 years? Yes, your work continues after 365 lessons. Then you will practice forgiveness and use these lessons as your thoughts. You'll ruminate less on things and experience these kinds of statements as your internal dialogue. When the lessons from A Course in Miracles become your internal dialogue, rather than having endless ruminations of fear, judgment, hate, and guilt, which brought you to this place, you lead a different life indeed. It seems as if heaven is on earth compared to the deep suffering you used to experience. I am that one you know as Jesus, and we will see you again tomorrow. So for those of you who have done these lessons before, I would love to know what you think about this, like the lessons becoming your thoughts, and how you've been able to integrate these lessons into your life, into your struggles, into your decisions that you're making about yourself and about other people. I definitely notice that a lot of these lessons flow into my mind on a regular basis, and it's truly changed my foundation. I'm still learning. I still have my upsets. I still have moments where things are brought to my attention around fear, guilt, shame, and judgment, of course. But in general, I feel like the lessons are really in my consciousness, plugged into me. And as I move around throughout the day and experience whatever upsets or difficulties, at some point in that experience, a lesson floats up to the top, and whatever thoughts I had about it's the other person's fault, or, this, I'm gonna die, or this is the worst thing ever, those thoughts just kind of get smaller and smaller and float away. And the course material and content and lessons kind of stay in the forefront, and that's what I end up trusting. So it feels like, as far as lesson 138 goes, heaven is a decision I must make, that I'm able to make that decision. Sometimes it feels like I get stuck in the lower vibrational emotions, but I really quickly am able to come out of that. And I credit all of that to my study of A Course in Miracles and all of the wonderful, amazing people that I've met in the Channeling Jesus community. Thanks to Tina Spalding doing her work and growing this beautiful group of people and this body of work. So, much love to all of you. Enjoy this lesson today, and I'll see you tomorrow.